Hey everybody, for those of you that don't know, my name's Hoopy, and today here in the shop we have a RZR 570. And this RZR 570 belongs to my buddy Billy. It's his kid's RZR. And today we are going to be changing out the winch solenoid. For some reason it's mounted down here on the firewall, which ain't a real good spot for it because it gets covered in mud and stuff. And the winch quit going in. So he switched the wires around so it would go in, but it won't come out. So we're gonna change that solenoid out, get that straightened up. And then he has a problem with the battery it keeps going dead all the time. And the stereo in this thing was direct to the battery, and it has a power button on it, but it also has memory and everything on there, so it keeps running the battery down because this thing does not get rode very much. So we're going to put a relay in between here off of the accessory wire, so whenever the key's on, the relay clicks on and then that gives it power. So if he has radio stations or something, he'll lose all his presets, but it won't be draining the battery dead because of that. So we're going to get started. First things first, we got to get this thing up off the ground because I don't feel like laying down there to work on it. And before I forget, we're also going to be adding this dash mounted switch for the winch, because the only thing it has right now is the remote plug-in on it. So we'll probably be mounting this over here somewhere so that if you've got to sit in the RZR and run the winch, you can. Well, first things first, let's see what we need to do to get this old solenoid off the firewall here. I know that those are 10mm there. There's a touch bigger. Those are probably like 7/16 actually. So I'll get the stuff and we'll get that off there. So of course nothing can ever be simple. Whoever in the hell mounted this on here ran bolts clear through with nuts on them. And so I've got to try to do this. That's a pain in the ass. If it wasn't for these cables coming off the winch right here, going up to this being so short, I personally would probably just took the cables off and left this old one here and remounted it inside the cab. But this is what we're left with. So I'm going to go ahead and get those cables off there, and we'll get that out of there and put the new one on real quick. Alright, so we got our old one out of there. And we're going to go ahead and grab the new one and get it routed down in here. So our new one here mounts slightly different than this one. So all I'm going to do is use one of the existing bolt holes, and I'll have to drill one more. And this one's only got 2 bolts to hold it on, so it's going to make it a little bit nicer. Well, easier to change anyhow. So I got the new one in there and got it mounted down. I'm going to go ahead and hook these wires up, and I'll show you what that looks like. Alright, she's in there and the wires is all hooked up. I'm going to work on sliding these over and covering these terminals. I got the positive one on there. That's the main one that I'm concerned with because that goes straight to the battery. So I'll get them other ones on there and we'll move on. So next up on the list is wiring. One of these terminals is for in and the other one's for out. And we have to figure out which one does what. The other one was wired straight in, and since this winch controller is already hooked up in the dash, I'm just going to put some terminal ends on here and put it in here, but I've also got to splice in the ones coming from that switch we're going to mount in the dash to it. So we've got to figure this out before we put these on so we don't get them wrong. So I'm just going to touch the top terminal and see which way it goes. Popped out. Bottom one's in. And it's as simple as that to figure out which way you needed your solenoid to go. So next up, to determine which which wire does what for this remote here. I plugged it in. I had to hook the battery back up because this only works with the key on. So we've got power to it now. I went ahead and stripped both these wires, so I'm just going to reach inside, push the button, touch it on a terminal, and see which one does what. It's going to be that simple. So, just in case you guys wanted to know, black is out and green is in. So I'm going to get those, I'm going to get some wires wired in here with these, and I can plug them in, and this will be hooked up. So, just to keep stuff simple, I went ahead and went with the same colors they've already got in there, green and black. So I just got to plug these in, and black was out, and green was in. And I'll run these wires here through a hole in the firewall. Probably that one right there. So next we're going to be mounting our dash switch, and I'm probably going to put it right here. I really don't like doing this because it sucks cutting into plastic, but the old 800s, they made a plate that actually went in here, and all you had to do was cut all this out, and you could put that plate in, put everything back in, and it gave you extra switch slots. But I have a blank here. I'll trace this, and then that'll tell me where I need to cut, and then I can pop the switch right in. So it's either going to be here, here, or here. I'll figure it out in a minute. I think I'm going to go ahead and go with this right here. Looks lined up with the rest of them. I don't know. Yeah, we're going to send it. So there's no great way to go about cutting these out. The best way I've found so far is I have a hobby knife that's a hot knife. It takes X-Acto knife blades, and you plug it in, it gets hot, and it just melts right through this stuff. But I don't have it here with me right now. So we're going to hit it with a stepper bit. And then I've got the old cordless jigsaw here. Well, it don't look too bad. Here's our switch, and that'll be perfect. That's what we want. Fits right in there. Good. In, out. Functions work. Alright, next we'll get her wired up. So next we're going to tap into our power source for this. And because this is basically just signal wires, this applies to RZR 570, 800, and 900 XPs. If you don't know this, on the back side of your plug here, there's a wire. It's an orange wire that's ran with it. And it takes one of these plugs that'll slide into it, but that's switch positive accessory power. And you can tap into it to run stuff like this for relays and whatnot. I don't think it's got a lot of amps on it, so I wouldn't run major power off of it, but if you wanted to run, like I said, a relay, or like I'm just putting power to the switch with it, it does just fine. Alright, so when wiring this switch up, as you can see, this has a lot of terminals on it. It's got 7 of them. This in particular one came with this little instruction paper here. So this is, I mean, basic as it gets. Pretty simple. I'm just going to hook it up real quick. So on this wire thing here, it doesn't tell you which one's in and which one's out. But if I remember right, I've tore some of these apart. So whenever you actually shove it up, it's got a little leg on it, and it actually sends power to your lower terminals. So the bottom ones are going to be in, and your top ones are going to be out. Alright, we're all wired up. So turn on the key. Headlights don't need to be on. So if we hit winch in, it lights up and moves. Winch out, lights up and moves. It's going to be tough to... I'll set the camera up and we'll hit the button and see it. Here's winch in. And there's winch out. So, that there took care of wiring up the winch in this thing. Next, I'm going to move on to... I've got to run this wire back underneath to a relay for the radio. And then I've also got to... Not sure where the switch is for that light bar, but I think he wants it hooked up to where when you turn the high beams it comes on. So that's how I'm going to do that. Well, we're back today, and today we are working on running the signal wire from the key switch positive. I've got to get it back here by the battery so I can put a relay in so that it'll run all his accessories so it's not drawing on his battery. I'm probably just going to bite the bullet here and have to pull the center console out. It's probably going to be the easiest to fish the wire down through there. I've already got it ran from inside to the outside of the firewall. It's that blue wire that comes down. And you just got to run it back along with all your other wiring that gets back here. So, just going to pull all the bolts that hold this center in and pop it off. Here's what it looks like with that center console out. You can see that front drive shaft. Real simple. Right there's the front. Right here's where we're going to bring that wire in. We're just going to attach it right here with some zip ties to this winch wire that somebody already ran along through here. And it comes down, and right there, we'll be right where we need to be. I'll probably bring it on around here and bring it out here so it's out of the way. So, alright, got my wire in there, nice and tidy. Brought it up around. I'm going to go ahead and throw that center console back in, and then we are going to wire up the relay here. Alright, so on my solenoid setup here, I decided to run 2. And all I did was parallel everything. And the reason being, the wires for this stereo are a heavier gauge. So this way I can run 2 of them and I don't have to worry about it pulling too many amps. Because I don't know what these are rated for. But, well, 40 amps. So that should be more than enough. Running 2 of them together to provide the power. So I'll show you how I'm going to hook this up. My job on this got a little bit easy because I wanted to keep this fuse in here just to be safe. Somebody had already had these spliced together to extend this power cord, so all I did was cut the splice out, and I'm going to tap these in. Oh, here's what it turned out to look like. I just mounted those relays right there. I left enough slack in the wire, so not if, but when we convert this to a car battery, we've got room to move it. I'll show you up here on the stereo. So I can press the power button and nothing comes on. So I turn on the key, relay's clicked, come up here, and it powers up. So while that's on, I'm going to turn the key off, and voila, no more radio power. This way you can't screw up, leave it on, and it'll quit draining the battery with the memory. So that part's done. So I started looking at that light bar and tracing wires back, and then I found the one that goes up here, and it went in and went over to this toggle switch, and I was flipping the switch and couldn't figure out what was going on, and so I pulled the wires out, and well, these don't go to anything in here. So I traced it over and came back down, and it went down in here, and I looked, and there wasn't no wire coming out here. Well, I reached down in there and pulled on it, and out popped this. So it wasn't even hooked up. But considering this has this little fuse panel with all these fancy little switches, and there's an auxiliary switch right here not being used, I'm probably going to tap back into this and put this light bar on this switch. And that's going to solve the problem. It'll be fuse controlled. He can turn it on and off, and we won't have to worry about it. So upon investigation of that nightmare of wiring, this switch here is broke. It only works if you push it in, so I just bypassed that. But what that actually went to was these interior lights. So I ran them down to this switch, and now the light bar is going to be on this one. So we're going to turn on the key. We've got power up here. We're going to flip this switch, and we've got interior lights. Well, there's something wrong with that switch. Well, I'm probably going to switch them to one of these ones because these are not being used for anything. These switches here is just junk. But anyhow, that one there, you turn it on and you can see the light bar shining on my jack up here. So there, the light bar's on. I'm going to switch those wires around up there, and that's going to take care of that interior light issue. Next up, we're going to yank this back tire off here and get in here to this clutch cover and get it pulled off, because this RZR is shifting really hard. Like whenever you do get it in gear, it tries to take off and move by itself. And to get it to shift gears, I mean, you almost have to put both hands on the shifter and just slam it. And it shouldn't do that. So I'm guessing it's going to be the primary clutch. The shivs or whatever in there are seized up, and it's not letting it come all the way out to disengage the belt. Once I get in here, I'll show you what I'm talking about. But yeah, we're going to get to it. So, as I suspected, you get in here, and it's hard for me to hold light and show you this. So, you see how this is rusty? And it's hard for me to put the light right on it because then it makes it too bright for this camera. But it's also got corrosion, and then if you look down in here, you can see the rust down in there where it's been trying to slide, and that's my guess on what the issues is. This thing's just corroded up. It sat so long, and at one time it did have water in it because they ran a belt exhaust snorkel on this thing, or belt intake exhaust, one of the two, because they did have water in it at one point. So I'm going to call my buddy and see how he wants to handle this. So, real quick, I'll explain to you how this works if you don't know. So basically, this here is on the engine crank, and as this spins, this is supposed to shove this in, which tightens up on this belt and makes it spin. What's going on is that this is tight right now. It's not releasing enough. There should be play in this so that you can actually spin this belt freely, and you can hear how it's squeaking on there. This should be back a little bit more. So that's what the issue is that's going on with this. So I wanted to show you this. See how that's in park? Shifter's in park. When you come under here, see how the secondary clutch is spinning? This one should be sitting still. This clutch is engaging and grabbing that belt and spinning it and staying engaged. So that's got a gap there. I'm going to rev this thing up and let you watch how it works. Well, I was looking in here and I discovered the problem. Rust may not be the complete issue as much as it is. Let's see if I can get it in the camera here. See that spring right in there? Well, that's the tip of it there, and it's broke. So that spring inside the clutch isn't shoving this back like it's supposed to and holding it wedged. Yeah, right there, you can see that broken part. So we're either going to have to come up with a set of springs or possibly just buy an aftermarket clutch. We'll see which one's cheaper. Well, either way we go about this, the belt's got to come off and the clutch has to come off. I think my clutch puller is loaned out to one of my buddies, so I'll have to see about that. But for now, we're going to get this belt off here. If you're lucky, in the glove box, you'll find that little bag of tools, and then there will be the tool to stick in here and shove down on this to spread this clutch. I'm not lucky. It ain't in there. So I'm just going to try to use a pry bar here. I've done this and made it work before. You see how I'm squeezing that in and this belt's getting looser? Well, you should be able to just go like this. Pry in on that. And spin this belt off there. pop that out. There you go, belt's off. That's that easy. Then we'll have to spin this bolt out of here, and this is sitting on a tapered shaft, so you have to have the puller. There's no way it's going to come off without that. Alright, we're back on this thing today, and got my clutch puller. It's just a big bolt threaded in here. Like that, there's your clutch, just that simple. If you look in here, you can see that broken spring piece is pretty easy. And we got our new clutch. Stick her on there and put the bolt in her. Tighten her down. That's what'll tighten it up on that shaft and hold it there. And like that, she's on there. And then just spin her around a few times and she'll tighten the belt back up. And that's what you want. Alright, got her all slapped back together here. I'm going to go over here and start it and see how easy she shifts now. Before, I couldn't shift that if I had a hold of it with two hands. So, that's what I needed. So, there you have it. There's all the wiring and changing the clutch and everything on a RZR 570. So, if you guys like videos like this, go check out the rest of my channel. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks.